Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and happy Valentine's Day. If you're spending your Valentine's Day watching me on YouTube, then I think we're sharing the same sort of day today. Unlucky for you. Yep, my apologies. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hello, in all seriousness, welcome back. It's good to see you. It's a quiet day today. Do you like it quiet? I feel like I like it quiet. Not too much going on, and the things that we're going to talk about today are probably circumstantial. You know, we'll probably have to wait and see how the next few months go before we can form an overall opinion and what to think of these things. But we're still going to talk about them anyway because, as I said, it's quiet and I need to make a living. So, and talking about Valentine's Day, what a way to start today's video by talking about an old flame of mine, one of the greats. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about the potential return of the one and only Vasilis Barkas. Yesterday we found out that Vasilis Barkas will be returning to Celtic in the summer transfer window. For how long? I don't know. It could be a Kevin Nash 2011 style return, gone within days. Or it could be, you know, Edge 2020 style return, back for good, surprising the masses, back to his best. Yeah, if you don't understand any of the references there, I do apologise. But he is going to be back in the summer. Utrecht have essentially confirmed they can't afford to bring back Vasilis Barkas on a full-time deal, a permanent deal, and it's probably unrealistic that Celtic would loan him out to Utrecht once more. So he's going to be back. He's coming home. He's here, Vasilis Barkas. Let's get real for a moment, because I know a lot of you will be very one-sided on the return of Vasilis Barkas. I can assume that the majority of you watching from home will be on the understanding of, yeah, get him back and get him to fuck again. Yeah, I think that's going to be most people's opinions on Vasilis Barkas. But I think we should talk a bit about his season so far with Utrecht in the Eredivisie, and then where we go as a club from there. Let me just cut to the chase. I don't think he'll play for Celtic again. Whether or not we get a lot of money for him, different story. But we're going to try and evaluate the whole situation, look at it all, and then come to what might be the most realistic conclusion for both parties. So Barkas has made 21 appearances in the Eredivisie this season so far, with 7 clean sheets, and he's actually been rated as one of the best keepers in the league so far this season. There's been a couple of games that have stood out here and there where I think they've actually conceded quite a hefty amount, but in general, it looks as though they're having a decent enough season. 7th right now in the Eredivisie. Barkas has been one of the biggest factors in their season. He's been playing well, and I think he's won man of the match on a few different occasions. He's really revitalised himself with Utrecht, and with doing so, according to the Utrecht board anyway, and their sporting director, it's going to take a huge fee to try and land him on a permanent deal. So how does that affect his future at Celtic? Well, let's look at the comments made by the club. So the sporting director said this: we have to talk about realistic purchase options. A club like FC Utrecht, which cannot afford huge transfer amounts, has to be creative. By loaning players first, we buy time. Vasilis Barkas will return to Celtic, and he is too expensive for FC Utrecht. It was also added in by the goalkeeping coach of Utrecht that it would be pie in the sky stuff for the Dutch side to land him on a permanent deal. But what has happened from this comment is a lot of the Scottish tabloids have started spinning headlines saying that Celtic will get a huge fee for him in the summer transfer window, which has invoked some social media reaction that we might recoup all of the money we spent on Vasilis Barkas. Let me just say this: don't get carried away too much. This is the list of Utrecht's top 5 most expensive signings in their club's history. The most expensive being Alexander Gernt in 2011 for a fee of £4.8 million. A huge transfer fee to Utrecht is anything over £5 million. And to be honest, by the average price of their top signings, probably anything over £2 million, to be quite honest. That's a huge transfer fee to Utrecht. So if you have been getting carried away like the tabloids have with trying to say that Celtic would get a huge transfer fee for Barkas in the summer, just look at the club we're talking about here. No disrespect to Utrecht whatsoever. We are in the same sort of climate where we can't spend huge sums of money. But I think huge to them is something to us that would be maybe marginal compared to the fee we did pay for Vasilis Barkas. So if he does go in the summer, I would be surprised if we get any more than £2-3 million. The good thing is, he's had a good season. He's impressed in the Eredivisie, which means if there's interested parties and clubs that want him, we can maybe go out and find that money. Whereas at the start of this season, we'd have been lucky to get any money for Barkas going off his Celtic performances. So it's good that he's went over to Holland. It's good that he's managed to, have the season he's had in order for us to make some money back. But we're not going to be making the £6 million back that we paid for Vasilis Barkas. That's long gone. He's also only got 18 months left on his current deal. By the time he's back in the summer, a year, say. He's going to have 12 months left on his contract. I honestly would be stunned if we get anything more than £2 million for Barkas. This could be the only chance to make money for him. This is the only chance that we have. Well, we can't make money. We're going to lose money ultimately. This might be the only chance we have to get a fee. Because if we loan him out again or we just let the contract expire, we're going to make absolutely nothing. So it'll be an interesting summer when he's back at Celtic to see what happens. We know that Utrecht can't afford them, but will there be other clubs, maybe in Holland, maybe elsewhere in mainland Europe, that are willing to pay a transfer fee for the Greek keeper? It begs the question though, is there potentially a future for him at Celtic? Now, as I said at the start of the video, I feel like all of us really have our minds made up in regards to Barkas and Celtic. It's probably not going to happen in the eyes of the fans anyway. But has he done enough this season in the Eredivisie to show that maybe he deserves a second chance? That maybe he has salvaged something out of what looked to be a very precarious position for him at the club? I guess there's been question marks over the head of Joe Hart from some supporters. People have been saying it's time we go and sign another goalkeeper. Now, I'm not saying anything. I've not been on that side of things yet. But is there potential to say, right, okay, let's try and salvage something out of that £6 million we spent on Barkas. Let's give him a chance next season. Will that happen? Or is it completely gone? It's food for thought. I'm not saying that I'm on any particular side of it. You know me, I was buzzing when Barkas came to the club. I tried to back him for the longest time, but things just didn't work out. And I think he really put the nail in the coffin that friendly game against West Ham.
Look at this cheese. What are you doing? Give that guy a manual.
Because he was disastrously bad that day. And I think that's really been, people were maybe coming around to the thought, okay, second chance. And then right there and then, bang, it was sort of gone. So I don't know. I don't think that he will get a second chance at Celtic, I must admit. I think that the whole point in Ange loaning him out, and looking for different options for him is telling as to where his future was at the club. But we'll see what happens come the summer. If he continues to have an impressive season in the Eredivisie, there's probably no reason why he can't come back and try to impress at Lennox Town. But I guess we can only see with time. But aye, Barkas, eh? Talking about players coming back, let's talk about players who could leave the club, because there was one that I didn't expect to see this morning, and that is Carl Starfelt. Once again, don't get your knickers in a twist. Hold your horses, and don't get your hopes up. I said get your hopes up. Why would you want him to leave? You know what I mean? Don't get carried away is the phrase that I'm looking for. Carl Starfelt, though, he was in Fabrizio Romano's tweets this morning with the potential departure of him in the summer transfer window. Apparently, English Premier League clubs looking at him as a potential option in the summer window. I don't know which Premier League clubs, I don't know how true it may be, but it has been mentioned nonetheless. So this was Romano's tweet. He said Celtic central defender Carl Starfelt one to watch in the summer, as Premier League clubs are following him as a possible option for the next window. The Scottish club will try to keep him, as he's considered an important player for Celtic, which as I said, was not expecting to see that of all players to be looked at by Premier League clubs. And no disrespect to Starfelt, because I love him. I'm a Starfelt fan. I love her. Always been a backer. But if anybody, I would have thought, maybe Carter Vickers, maybe someone else in the team. I didn't really expect it to be Starfelt. Well, of course, he's getting a little bit older as well. Got to remember that he's one of the older players in the starting 11. If chances come for him, it would probably be now or never. But funnily enough, he was in the papers on Sunday talking about his career thus far and how he had options when he was younger to go to America, but he chose to stay in Europe. He could have went down, I think, the college route in the States, but he decided not to. So he was actually in the paper talking about that on Sunday, and then today, Fabrizio Romano is linking him with Premier League clubs. However, I want to say this. I want to say one thing. His agent, or his agents, it's the same as Georgios Giacomakis' agents. Now, I'm not one to point fingers or start rumours, but could it be the stirring of the pot? Are the agents maybe looking to test the waters in regards to a big move, throwing his name out there, getting Premier League clubs to go, Carl Starfelt, let's have a look at him. Let's see what we're going to try and compete for here. Is it the same sort of thing that we've seen with Giacomakis heading into the January window? An unexpected departure, but one that happened, testing it before he got too old, and then finding him a move for the benefit of both the player and themselves. Of course, agents gather huge fees with these transfers, especially to the Premier League. So, is it maybe a case of that? Just some, once again, food for thought. Will it happen? You never know. I guess it's very early to really make an assumption as to whether or not he'll leave in the summer window. There's not much substance to this at all. Fabrizio Romano, yeah, of course, he's a very credible source, and he's usually on the ball with the majority of things, but of course sometimes he's been off the ball as these things go. So I wouldn't let it bother you right now, is ultimately what I would say. I don't think I would read too much into it. We'll once again get through this next portion of the season and then see how things stand in the summer. But of course, we've brought in Kobayashi. We are prepared for things like this, and we've been told to prepare for the exit of some favourites at the club. So it's never out the realms of possibility. Don't let it bother you right now. And finally, the draw for the quarter-finals of the Scottish Cup has been made. 5:30 yesterday, and a tough draw for Celtic. We're heading to Tynecastle for the quarter-finals. We'll take on Hearts in a difficult tie, to be honest. Probably the tie I wanted the least. And that's including Ibrox. I think that I really wanted to avoid Tynecastle. Now listen, we've been fine at Tynecastle since Ange Postecoglou's came in, bar that first game, which was so long ago now. But I still just hate going there, especially in the cup competitions where, you know, it's one and done. You've got one chance and one chance only, so it'll be tough. The game will take place on the weekend of March 11th, which is my birthday, yay. But we don't know when exactly yet because broadcast selections haven't been made. You would assume that Hearts versus Celtic at Tynecastle will almost certainly be picked for a televised match. If I was to hazard a guess, I would expect another Saturday 5:30 kickoff, but it could be anything. It could be the Saturday, it could be the Sunday. We'll just have to wait and see. It would be nice to try and get a ticket if it lands on my birthday, but I doubt that'll happen. There is obviously the talk of the extended allocation for the cup ties, maybe the return of the full Roseburn stand for Celtic at Tynecastle. Still be incredibly difficult to get your hands on a ticket on one of those ones. It's always in demand, so best of luck if you're trying to get your tickets. Hopefully you enjoy it if so, and hopefully sends us through to another game at Hampden, but we'll see come that weekend. Just for yous who might be curious or don't know, the rest of the ties are on screen. Inverness will take on Kilmarnock. Rangers welcome Raith Rovers to Ibrox, and Falkirk, who beat Darvel last night, will take on Ayr United, which means we're guaranteed either Falkirk or Ayr at Hampden, which is a change from recent times. Interesting. I mean, they'll be hoping for Celtic and Rangers to be tied up together, and then, you know, we could have a Championship or League One side in the Scottish Cup final. That'd be crazy, yeah. Anyway, that does it. I've actually spoke for a hell of a lot longer than I thought I would today. This was meant to be I said it was quiet today. Christ, when you're stuck with me, it's never quiet. But I hope you've enjoyed. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.